Yeah, okay, we good? Tucker, can you hear? Everybody can hear, right? This seems really loud coming back this way. Well, the microphones work at the library. Welcome to the meeting. Welcome to our July meeting. I mean, we're excited to be here in the library. I sort of thought Lisa might meet us here. She around? She's gonna come by later? All right, well, glad to be here. Okay, let's do this. Judy, if you'd call the roll.
Judy Neville, Tom Schulte's absent, Amy Carroll here. Oh, no, it's Todd Levier. I'm sorry, I was up
I have a brother, Bob. He's not here though.
I was thinking, all right, Michael Chen, Chris Labrie, Victor Alvarez is absent, Rhea Weingarten, Hamill,
Here.
Donovan, and James Yao. So we need to see Tom Schulte,
Someone for Tom?
and that would be Jane.
Sure.
Turn. And we need to pull in for Roberts. You want one?
Yeah, we could do that. One motion for those two replacements. Chris, second. Maria, all in favor? Aye, opposed? So moved. Okay, motion to approve the minutes from our June 13th, memorable June 13th meeting.
Yeah, in the minutes, yeah, there was a change. Or it was an edit that I had missed. All right, it's the part that talk about.
Prepared.
It was with, to our knowledge, that we only had one other town. I gave in the state that had the internal service. I have the wording here.
Did you get the wording, Tucker?
Yeah, she's got it all. I told her.
And what is it? Say what it is?
Yeah.
You
It's
added to our knowledge. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
because it's
That's fair. We don't know.
The nuances are.
Oh, no, that's good.
Yeah, it is. Now.
Okay. So motion to approve? Second, James, second. All in favor? Opposed? None? Okay. Yep. Thanks, Amy. Okay, for Selectmen's update. Good evening, everyone.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Finance. Nice to see you all. I sat down to do a outline for tonight's update and I realized there's not much change since June. I'll go through the list and mention a few updates. The Waveney House bathrooms are nearing completion. I told you that last month. I didn't get over that last week. Bill, how close are they to completion? End of the month. Waveney House elevator is underway for installation probably December, end of the year. Right. Waveney House service area, as you can see from the outside, is underway. I'm not sure what the completion date of that is, but that looks good. Lapham Center CHP, we are still waiting for Eversource to finalize the deal about how they're going to bring gas into not only the Lapham Center, but also the pool and the paddle courts. And because the original Lapham Center connection was not going to have any charge because it was part of the expansion downtown, but the additional extension over to the paddle courts and the maybe Michael can help with this paddle courts and the
I'm not playing paddle.
only pickleball. Yeah, the pool, they want to charge us a couple $100,000 or to that extension. So anyway, that's still in negotiation with Eversource. And the 220 Elm, I did go over to 220 Elm the other day and it's looking very good. They're on schedule for early August occupancy, which will then trigger the vacancy at 39 Locust and proceed with the police department rebuild. You're going to hear about the Playhouse tonight from Ian and Tiger, so I won't talk about that. The PD project, you're going to hear also from Bill Walbert here.
He's here, just walked in.
Bill Walbert and the Paul. So I won't talk about that. Land trust is on the agenda tonight, so you're not going to hear about that. We had a very good meeting 2 weeks ago with the Silver Hill on the urgent assessment program, and the Board of Selectmen is going to hear them. Dr. Gerber tomorrow give an update. Again, the program continues to be working very well. The Metro North shutdown is surprisingly apparently on schedule, so our commuters appear to be faring relatively well, getting to Darien Station mainly to get spaces that are available. So we will give an update probably next week about the expectation that it's on schedule for the Labor Day finish, and also what our plan will be for renewing permits. I won't talk about, let's see, as you can see all around us, we have road repaving. Finally, the end of the gas expansion and the water main replacements. As everyone knows, Route 106 is heavily under construction with the 36-inch line, as is Harrison Avenue. Harrison Avenue residents, they expect to, Tiger, you promising the end of August for repaving Harrison. So that's been a miserable experience for those residents. I think I told you, but I didn't tell the board because we didn't have it. I told the town council. I happened to ask Sebi, our town assessor, what he expected was going to happen with the grand list in October. And to my surprise, because I thought we might be going from 8.1 billion to 9 billion. He thinks we're going to exceed 10 billion. And I said, what could happen between now and then? He said almost nothing. So if we locked in $10 billion, that brings us down into the area of 13 for a mill rate, and a second or third Greenwich. So I assume Darien will probably have a similar experience. But anyway, that's all I have.
That's a big deal.
That's
a big deal. I mean, that's obviously the taxes are the same. It's your value's up, but your bill rate's down, but 13 is.
Questions?
Better.
Yeah. You know, some people are up in the 20s and 30s, so 13 would be pretty nice.
I asked, we can talk about it in the finance update, but I did ask Josh to put together the amount raised by taxation by the other towns comparatively, and only Wilton had a lower annual average increase than we did, and not including this coming year, but in the prior 4 years, Wilton was up at 900,000 a year. We were up about $1 million a year. Really, that was all last year. And other towns are up 4, 5, 6, 7 million a year.
Right, but we're beginning to see the
taxation.
we're beginning to see the unions trying to catch up with the inflation. So our contracts will be running out, and that helped us a great deal in the past few years.
Okay,
You know, oh, it's funny. I
Sure.
think where people.
Sure. Yeah. But actually, car values are all up as well. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, we don't get any of that revenue.
The
Car tax.
no car tax stays with us. That was the answer to this.
All
Yeah, we keep it all.
of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thought we were over the limit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, next item is the request for disbursement of $150,000 from the land acquisition fund. Support of the New Canaan Land Trust. Chris, do you want to? And that mic you may have to, I assume you have to turn on.
Little button.
How's that? Well, good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Tom Cronin, the president of the board of the New Canaan Land Trust. And I want to just start by thanking the Conservation Commission for recommending to disperse the land acquisition funds to support the land trust. I thought I'd give a quick recap about how we got here. I believe it was 2017, maybe earlier, that we first approached the owners of 1124 Valley Road, which is the first taxing district of Norwalk, and proposed that we purchase the antique house and part of the land up there that abuts our 10.7 acres preserve. We didn't get very far in the negotiations back then. And since then, right up until December, we weren't getting very far in much of the negotiations. But last December, our first selectman was able to bring the district to the table for some negotiations, and they were very receptive to the idea. of talking to us. So things have changed over time. We asked about their interest in selling the house so that we could preserve it and a swath of land, just basically frontage, which is required, and the footprint underneath the house. We thought that's the best approach for us to preserve the house and the most inexpensive way for us to make a first pitch at the negotiation. Quite frankly, when we offered the number, they were a little underwhelmed with the amount. And they came back again, very graciously and good neighborly. They suggested that they were still willing to work with us, but we might have to increase that offer by 150,000. Again, they were slightly underwhelmed by the first offer we made for the house and the footprint underneath the house. So we did that. We said we could do that, but we would need an additional 1 acre of land along with the original proposal for the 0.1 acre of land that included the house footprint and the frontage to the Valley Road, which included a little pathway up to our preserve, a rather steep pathway to our preserve. So we are right now, we have signed a purchase and sale agreement. We're looking forward to a possible closing as early as September, perhaps October. We have some work to do with P&Z. We also have an 824 with Public Works. So we're really looking forward to making this happen. Any questions at all?
Questions for Tom?
What's the purchase price overall? The all-in, we're still in negotiations. The all-in, we think will be around 750,000, but the actual purchase prices will be about 500,000.
And this is a disbursement of funds. This isn't a new request for money, right? This is
Right.
moving money.
How much do we have in it?
Any questions?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make one correction to the notes here. The term is disburse, DISBURSE, not disperse.
You said disbursement.
It's a disbursement, not a.
That's what it said. It's a disbursement.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, no,
I understand. I know there's a typo there, but I didn't
Okay.
read that.
Okay, good.
You know what you mean.
I think that an opportunity to get an acre of open space for 150,000 in the town of New Canaan is an attractive deal. It's hard to get any land in our town. We're down to about only, I'd say, 3 to 4% of undeveloped open space. Be in the game, get something ready. Appreciate that. This is the first round trip of money, so it's gone in and now we're applying it. And we still face the same challenge, which is going forward. How do you finance a land acquisition fund? Board of Finance, maybe we'll get a small group together, meet to discuss alternative mechanisms to regularly fund the land acquisition fund. And suppose I was a little bold and seeking 10 of the 25 basis points. I think to do the analysis to said that the minimum the town gets this, and once it goes above this level. So I hope that you'll support this disbursement and come up with a mechanism regularly builds the land acquisition. Of course, there's always opportunity to keep that fund within the town reserves, sitting there and accumulating. And if there is a big deal, then it can be bonded, reset it. So but it does give Conservation Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, Land Trust, at least the initiation that the town also wants to play. Thank you.
Land trust add a contribution.
Property? Yes, the land trust will work through that. It'll be attached to the 10.8 acres already that is under a conservation easement. That's set. So it will be brought in with the exception of there's the footprint of an old barn on the back of the property. At some point, the land trust might be able to acquire a used barn or something like that to use it. Other than that, it's definitely going to be natural open space with a trail.
All of the property owned by the land trust is should the land trust ever go out of business, all that reverts to the town's owners.
Other questions?
Push it forward.
Chris, one thing I would say is with the thought of trying to figure out a longer term approach to this, like the next 2 or 3 months are a good time to do it. So, so not everyone's thinking about this in the summer. You certainly would like to kind of approach budget season with
Great.
proposal.
Todd told me October. So
I did.
hopefully before that.
I'm hanging on to October on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Amy, you can get started in August. We're not gonna.
Speed upstairs.
Me the coffee.
You got it.
All right. Any other questions for Chris or for Tom? Okay, a motion to approve the disbursement, $150,000.
And you're recommending it to the town council.
Actually, why don't you go ahead and read the, why don't you go ahead and read the entire,
Comfortable with this? Then? All right, approval of a recommendation from the Conservation Commission to disperse $150,000 from the Land Acquisition Fund in support of the New Canaan Land Trust acquisition of 1.8 acres and historic home on 1124 Valley Road, subject to a favorable 824 review of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All right,
we do agree it's a disbursement.
The July or August.
And the town council that we're recommending it.
so we're recommending.
Okay, motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Tom, second, Michael, all in favor? Okay, opposed? None, so moved. Thank you
Very much.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Chris. Okay, the Playhouse. Update, Tiger and Ian.
Yeah, start. Okay, good evening. Just to catch you up to where we are, currently, we received last week the 95% complete plans for the Playhouse. And Glenn Crooker from Alden and Bailey did a good job working over the weekend and got us a bunch of numbers this morning. We've got to do some work just going back and verifying exactly what's covered in those plans, making sure that anything that's not called out exactly, we have allowances for. I think that the good news is that we're very close to, at first look, very close to the budget. And we've got some pathways that if we had to cut costs, potentially do that. But in the other side of it is that we're compiling where the different buckets that the money goes into. And I think that it's going to be pretty much where it was stated at the last when the budget was presented. So I think we're very close, but we wanted to have a little more time to go through all these numbers. Got them this morning, so a little more time. That sounded about right.
Great, like Ian said, we have a 95% plans. The 5% that's left is basically the fit out. That's on the Cinema Lab side. So really, we're looking at the white box scenario. So as far as our concern and our costs, we have what we need now to then analysis between plan set and what Alden Bailey has provided as far as the cost basis or cost structure for that work. We've asked Alden Bailey some of the blanks on some of the numbers just to give some clarity. And we reach the town council next week, on the Wednesday of next week, we should have enough information to like his.
Can I ask you, the number is all in, is that the number you said at the last meeting?
Very close.
7, 9,
7, yes, all in numbers. Very similar to what. Back
Change, yeah.
time, yeah,
Okay, and that again is exclusive of the roof, which was $40 million.
right. The roof was a couple, 3 years, right? So. it's-
Right. That's 7.9, and of that, the exposure to the town. The Cinema Lab was initially 1.5, correct? Am I correct on that? And then they were gonna maybe come up with some additional money over time.
Correct. They
So-
were, yeah, they were at 1.55 was their original portion.
And didn't, they had some,
Board of Selectmen approved. Selectmen approved a amended side letter where they're contributing toward the cost overrun. Over time.
what's the timing on getting everything done and it opening?
That, well, right now, we. Stacy's point, we can't. What is that? Need to get a positive review council. Point time. A little bit beyond where we were, so we'd be, with Bob's note. Hoping for Christmas, can't guarantee it. 6th to 9th. 100th anniversary.
So is the objective that the town doesn't work, it's working, there's the kind of the white box and then Cinema Lab outfits it. So are they like moving forward with procuring what they need to do this? The assumption it's gonna happen, or is everything kind of,
They're still finalizing what. Scenario. Up for them. Finish the. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Normally never happens. So what we're focused on now is just our side of the coin as far as that goes. And if we can nail down that side, then the fit out will be later. We can work through their numbers as we're building that white box for them and they come through with that. What would be the best scenario for both entities, the town and Cinema Lab, and what would be the most cost effective means for whether we fit out with their money, like I said, or they fit out with their money.
But a lot of major components have been ordered, especially the long lead items. So the elevator, the AC stuff, and they've ordered their bar and a lot of things. So a lot of things are in motion.
Hey, Kevin, fast question for you. I heard that Ryan Fazio had secured $1.4 million for the town. For the movie. Do you know, is that approved but waiting for their bonding committee in October, or do we know where that stands?
They haven't had any confirmation.
You've heard the same thing.
I heard from you.
I heard it from Tom.
Again,
Moday told me.
it was coming from Ryan's side. Tom's working on the police department, not the and on the other one, when I read over the weekend that Greenwich got 6.5 million for their Boys and Girls Club. Bonding Commission did meet last Friday and voted on 6.5 million for Greenwich. I'm waiting for confirmation as to what New Canaan got.
Well, we don't know.
On 30th,
They're still meeting.
they met on the 30th. They only meet every, with scheduled meetings, so.
Well, it would be good to know where we are on that. That's just, we get sent, obviously urgent for today. So I'm sorry, next steps are you are going to town council next week?
The
With
19th, we plan to go to the council and we're hoping for, at that point in time, for a favorable view
Green
to
light?
actually
Okay.
start, to get the green light. So that's our goal at that point, because if not, we either have to ask for a special meeting or we would date until September. So we'd rather not lose the 2 months.
well, it'd be good to know if this 1.4 is real.
Well,
You know,
It's just gonna say, wouldn't that town council?
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that help the town council?
I don't, I think they're probably assuming it's not there yet. That'd be my guess. That'd be the smart thing to do, but yeah, it certainly would help.
Would,
would
I mean,
think,
that's
Of course.
huge. Maybe they'll have a separate meeting.
Okay, nothing for us to do then at this point. Right?
Right.
So what's our number? The town's commitment number before the 1.4?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Still 6.5.
Right.
It's
Sorry.
It's 8 million.
8,000,000, 6.5, right.
Well, no, but we've already had some money applied, but the all-in cost to the town.
Right.
Yeah.
From different sources, town sources.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Tiger? All right, good luck.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for keeping us updated.
Thanks, Ian.
All
Thanks,
right,
Bill.
so I think we have Bill and we're doing the police department.
Go grab a chair.
Joe?
There.
Thank you for having us, Board of Finance. Why not maybe turn that table around a click? It seems awkward to have it looking at just at Maria and Amy, you know? Yeah, how about that? All right. Do we need another mic for that?
All right. I'm joined here today by, or tonight by three other building committee members, Michael Chen, Amy Murphy Carroll, and Paul Foley. We also have Deputy Chief Andrew Walsh back here. Thank you. And Joe, and of course, Tiger. And so right now, I'm here to report that there really been no major changes to what we have presented previously. We have presented updates to the Board of Selectmen and to the Town Council, and the numbers are the same. In rough numbers: 20 million construction, 2 million move, 5 million soft costs, and 2 million contingency, get you to 29. So there's no change there. As far as what the work has been going on, I'll let the police and the town talk to the move in particular. The move comes out of our budget as a building committee, but we're not doing any day-to-day overseeing of that process. Let the pros do what they have to do. Again, when things need to be signed off on or approved, I mean, obviously it comes to our budget, but our town employees are handling the move. But as far as other work going on for the actual police building itself, we've taken another, or Turner and our ownership have taken another cut at the costs, to estimate the costs one more time. This is probably the third time we've gone through to try to get a good sense of what where these things are really going to come out. And we were within what, $40,000, $60,000 where we have been in the past. So really no change there. That's just, again, it's not a guess. It's an estimate based on lots of work. But as far as the pros in this business that do this kind of thing every day, we're still, the numbers really haven't changed. So that's very good. There's no change in the timetable. We expect to be in the actual police station now in end of November. And again, I'll let these guys talk to the actual move timeframe. As far as our long lead time items, we've come back and opened some bids there. Joe, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. So we put out 3 packages for early release. The generator package, switchgear package, and some HVAC equipment. So all of those packages have come in, the bids have come in. They are all within our budget. The sum of them is actually less than our budget for those items. And I'll be presenting them tomorrow to the Board of Selectmen for contract approval, so we can get release on these items. That some of them generators are pushing a year out. Switchgear is slightly less than that, but also it's very important for us to get that. And then just the HVAC equipment, we don't have it, we can't install it. So it's very important that we get those things procured.
Bill, help me with the timing. Maybe just back up a click. Where are we with the move with the officers?
Oh, sure. Well, as Kevin alluded
Let me
to,
ask you a couple questions. And
Yeah.
you give it, make it simple that way. Timing of the move. Where are we with the financing timing? That could be from the building committee or from, and you know, but when are we gonna have to start paying for it, putting some money out,
Mhm.
going to the market with some debt?
well, let these guys talk to the move dollars first.
Yep.
As far as the big dollars, the 20-something million dollars, we will have a much firmer numbers for your September meeting. Where we will have put the bids out. We will have had the bids back. We will have been able to scrub them. So we will have what I would call firm handshake numbers by September. I mean, right now, we don't expect any changes from the estimates we've been giving you. But still, those are estimates based on what we think some of the prime subcontractors will be, the prices they'll be giving us.
How many bids are going out?
Overall,
How many different
We have,
construction companies are we talking to?
So we have Turner Construction is our construction manager, and they will put out trade contracts. So there'll be about 28 bid packages altogether. And each one of them will expect to get 4 to 5, 3 to 5 bids, 3 required, 5 is our target.
So that's September.
That's the end of August. They'll be prepared to present it to you guys in September.
Okay. And then you will be making decisions on who to go with. Turner will come back with recommendations. That firms up the plan now. You're gonna get someone to get to work.
We would get a guaranteed maximum price from Turner at that point. Present it to the Board of Selectmen for, all the funding is in place for the project. It's been bonded. It's not been bonded, but the bond authorization.
Is that by September? You're not,
The
the guaranteed maximum price bids
yes,
come back in September.
yes.
You can find a market for $20 million.
No,
So yes, by your September meeting, again, we hope to have the numbers by end of August, but as far as the town bodies are concerned, we expect to hit September with some very, very firm numbers, as Joe said, guaranteed maximum price, so that we can look all of you in the eye, and the people of the town in the eye, and say, this is what the thing is going to cost.
We're still thinking about spreading the bonding out over a couple of fiscal years to spread out not have a big spike. Right. Right. You'll do 20 at once? I'd like to see that. It'd be good to see the just details on that, maybe in September or even October, once they've got you'll know a little bit more, maybe we'll know more for October. Okay.
Do you want more detail on the move itself?
Yeah, I think, well, everyone's curious, yeah. Just the timing.
Okay, well, as far as the timing of the actual move, right, we expect the Board of Ed to be out. And once they're out, we could mid-August, and then we could start moving the police in. We will.
There's some renovations.
Oh, you renovate, I'm sorry, you're absolutely, renovations will start on the building starting mid-August. And then we will be moving the police out sometime in November to move to the new temporary facility on Locust Street. And at that point, once we move the police out in November, we'll be able to go in and start taking down some interior walls and things like that. There's a lot of moving parts as far as the move is concerned that Andrew and Joe and the team have been working on. But so far, no major problems, right?
Other questions, Michael, anything from your chair or Amy from the committee?
Our approach to getting to these numbers. Just the one thing I think people should realize, the build out for the PD, the temporary build out, people are really being conscious that it's temporary in watching our dollars and just doing what's needed, because the police department, you got to make sure it's safe and everything. But no one is being flippant at all in terms of, you know, people can hang out in a less than perfect quarters for a while.
Some of the telephone and radio stuff probably a little bit more expensive than we would have liked to see, but there's only 1 or 2 games in town when it comes to that kind of thing. And you can't certainly skimp on that kind of thing. You want to make sure it works when you turn it on. And there's some other safety features that are not sourced by lots of places. And so these things cost some money, but nothing that overall hasn't been budgeted for.
So with the November, call it a November real kickoff start to the construction, sounds like. When are we looking at being ready to move back in?
Well, I think we're budgeting 2 years, but certainly Turner hopes to do better than that. Is that fair?
Yeah, 2 years is probably gonna be,
Fall of 25, sometime in 25,
Yeah.
calendar 25.
yes, fall of 25 is. Expecting.
But we hope, like I said, to beat that 2 years, but 2 years is where we are.
Okay, other questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay, we'll see you in September.
All right, thank
All
you.
right.
Someone should write a song about that.
Think someone should. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Next item, we had asked for an update on the ARPA funds. We knew we had quite a bit of activity over 2 years, and I just thought as a finance committee, we got to see where we are, what's left, how we do. We feel good about what we did, everything in retrospect.
Yep.
We're over to you guys.
You have on your tablets, you have 2 documents. You have 1 page, which is all of the projects that have been approved by all 3 town bodies. And then there's a second page, which is 1 item that is, we're calling it further study. So the Board of Selectmen has approved it. This is a FlexiPave pathway over at Mead Park. There's still some work to be done on that project, so that's why we haven't brought it forward for any other approvals. So this just shows you a rundown of the projects that have been approved. And Anne's got some more information in terms of what's been paid out and that kind of thing, so.
So to date, from the grant itself, we've received, it came in 2 tranches. We've received both tranches to date, so that's in. As of today, we've spent $2.5 million of it. Because there's different, part of that is the Playhouse. There's different projects that we have in there that will take some time to get spent down, but they have been assigned, which is part of the requirement of the ARPA funds to have it committed by December 2024. And I would open it for any questions.
What was it, a final amount? 6
Oh,
million?
6 million.
It's 5.9.
5.9,
Yeah.
and we've assigned, looks like 5.2.
Yes, and we've
Ish.
got the 300,000, which is still for further study. That's on that 3rd page, and then that leaves us the remainder of 447.
And of the assigned of 5.2, we've actually spent 2.5.
And I would say one other item that I had sort of in the back of my mind as part of the further study was getting the town hall meeting room and the boardroom back at town hall really outfitted back to the quality that we need to for these Zoom meetings. And fortunately, we were able, with the help of Greg Riley and others, to receive a grant from Pura that we received for $114,000. So we have that work. We already have a vendor ready to help us get that going. Yeah.
And just back on the FlexiPave, it's approved
By the Board of Selectmen.
and it hasn't come to us because we're just. Doesn't come to your committee. I got you. Okay. That's for Mead Park.
Is that?
That's
Is that what they're doing right now?
I don't know. Do you want to get, I don't know. Steiger? We can, hang on, he'll come back in,
No, we have a discussion going on with the neighboring condominium association about a property line. So that's, until that's resolved, we can't go forward.
Is that 100 within the 5.2 or no? Is it,
you look at the 3rd page, gives
No,
you.
it's on
full-
top of the five too.
okay, so
not signed
that would net out,
Fully approved.
okay,
So there's
300 is still
so there's 747
left.
left.
so
of
that would
which
give us 447.
Exactly.
300 or 447 after the FlexiPave. And the 447 has requests, projects? Nothing?
Fun.
Okay.
We could have reimbursed ourselves, the general fund or I think it was, I think the number was 3
Three.
million. So, you know,
We
it's,
talked about that.
We can always take the balance.
Lost revenue.
and then you can always just fund the projects, however you fund projects. with that.
We have until December 2024 to commit the funds. And even longer to spend them.
Well, or should some of these that we did get more? Not a lot of discussion there. Okay,
One thing, I remember when the New Canaan Athletic Station was coming for us, we toyed with perhaps, you know, seeing if we wanted to send, you know, through the selectmen,
Mhm.
250 towards that.
Well, keep on, there's got to be a connection with COVID. And most, you know, these other projects generally have some,
Mhm.
you know, improvement. Yeah, I suppose athletic fields in some ways, you know, are encouraging outdoor activity.
side.
But for the most part, you're looking for a connection with COVID. That's why a couple of things didn't qualify.
You could do the same.
You know,
Yeah.
Amy, Tiger had an issue with that.
It did because of
You
the
missed that meeting. There
procurement.
was an
Oh.
issue with that.
Federal bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to get involved with federal
agreed.
government.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, is the committee still meeting? Are they still looking at these?
We don't have anything. We're
And they
waiting.
need it,
Pretty-
right?
No, again, right now, the expectation.
So be.
Or is this a different plan?
It's the same plan. It's probably a generous estimate is the cost. We didn't progress the design until we had resolved the issue with the condominium association. Meeting with them on later this week.
Is it that they don't want to trail too close to the?
They don't want more people walking behind their condominium association.
Okay, well, I mean, well done. We still have a little left over, I suppose. We'll see where, I'm glad I asked.
So Kevin, would the selectmen then maybe consider proposing that the balance be remitted to the general
Sure,
fund and wrap
sure,
it up?
yeah.
You know, with the flexi pay, and just when we do these projects, it's always great, right? But there is a contingent liability going on. Redo it.
Well, on that point, though, I mean, there's probably nothing more popular than the flexi paved urban park. Just people love it, you know? And that the same rationale was to make, we have a safety issue at Mead Park with people walking through the parking lot. So we're trying to correct that safety issue as well as making it more walkable downtown.
So possibly in September, we could vote to move that money to, the Board of Selectmen could recommend and we
Sure.
would discuss moving into and just use it for projects as they come along, since we had, what is it, $2-3 million of lost revenue, which
Right.
you could use. That's
Right.
right. Okay. Okay. All right, well, we can keep talking about it. We're going to item 8. I say we go to 8. Okay. Fund balances. So we had another pile of fund balances that I was asking for clarity on what they were for, how much money was in them, why did we need them? These are assigned balances in the general fund. So it's not unassigned. They're assigned to something.
Yes,
And the question was what and why?
yes.
Okay,
So currently, what we'll be working for closing fiscal year 23, it'll be about $7 million. Give or take, because we need some Board of Ed numbers. So we have an assignment of 265,000. It's related to compensated absences, which are required payments that we do pay when an employee leaves. There's depending on the eligibility, union contracts, things like that, the vacation payout, sick time payout. So we have a reserve on that. We did in this year, in fiscal year 23, we actually had quite a number of retirements. So it was to the tune of about $90,000 that we paid out. And then starting in fiscal year 25, GASB is going to change that rule from an accrual standpoint. The dollar amount may not change too much because that's just to protect us that if we have too many retirements in 1 year, we have that reserve up there to use. And if we had no other budgetary contingency left. Heart and
do
hypertension.
you have a recommendation for each one of these or a point of view?
I'm gonna wait till we finish up the books because I want to see the new numbers on the compensated balances and talk to HR to say, you know, certainly police lets us know with the new ruling they have if they're going to leave, things like that to say, what's our exposure next year? And see if this number needs to change.
Is it a health fund?
No, the
it's-
compensated balances is just an assignment that says it's vacation pay. We have different union contracts that says after so many years and you retire, you can get sick, vacation.
It's an accrued balance.
We don't accrue, we assign it to say in one particular year if we have a heavy year of retirements, really. The overall GASB rule goes on our top side of our books, because that could be for everyone, just say it could be $2 million. I don't have the number on the top of my head right now with taxes and everything.
You're suggesting, again, you're gonna recommend maybe later, but for now, makes sense to keep something like that
Right.
for that reason and for the gap.
I mean, technically, I can take the 95, say, that is through the P and L right now and reduce it. So it.
We don't need to make any
Yeah.
answers. I think we get it. It's a
What I
small
do is
little.
Before I closed the books this year, I didn't do it last year because of being new. I didn't want to mess with these numbers, not fully understanding. Or now that I do, when I go to do what we call our fund balance assignment, it'll be something I'll bring in front of the boards to say, this is what we're recommending. Because
Perfect.
these assignments at one point would have been recommended by the board. So to change them around
Sure.
again, it's something I would need to
Yeah,
go.
makes sense.
So they'll do it again this year.
Sounds good.
Heart and hypertension, that's obviously for any claims. That will be, we'll look at the current status of our heart and hypertension claims and see what level of exposure you might have on any of that. So that's working with HR. So I'll work with them this year too.
And that is not a health expense.
It is a health expense, but they don't it's more of a claim versus a health insurance. So we have our we have a heart and hypertension that we manage and we pay out. This would be if we had a significant. So it's separate than our healthcare fund, and it's typically kept separate in it doesn't typically go into the ISF. I just say it doesn't
And
typically.
other towns do that. That's a typical thing to have.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And of that much money, it seems like a lot of money. That's all.
It can. I've just seen, again, not knowing the claims, that's where last year I didn't know any of the
Okay.
claims to look at what's our exposure, talk to the company that handles it for us.
Yes,
Yes, heart hypertension.
this is a
particularly,
statutory
police and
program
fire.
that's being phased out. But there's only a handful of policemen still
Yeah,
eligible
police
for
and
it.
fire. Yeah.
And but the claim, people can actually be paid out of that fund for current health claims. So they're not hitting our health plan. But on the other hand, their liability for high blood pressure or heart can accumulate, and then they say, okay, I want $500,000 for my claim, and then we have to settle that. So the Kerma manages this
Manages it, yeah.
for the few participants we have left. And we meet with Kerma in September to review this kind of.
Review.
So-
everything. Yeah, for-
Only policemen and firemen.
Fire.
Yeah. And the program was phased out entirely. It had to be, employed before 2000 or 1995 or something. Gone away.
Yeah.
Just a question though, always had heart and hypertension compensated. In respective union. Has that all
Good
been
question.
removed and put in these as unassigned?
These are, yeah, they're not in budgets anymore because you don't
They
know at what
always were,
point.
so I'm just trying to make sure this isn't double,
No, this is not double because we don't budget for payouts.
but there was always that in the budgets, especially.
No.
with-
Taken out now.
We
But it's
budget
all
by
gone.
person.
I just
We-
wanna make
Yeah,
sure
it's all
that-
gone. We budget by person,
Okay.
their individual costs and it's not built in there. Storm damage, this is definitely one we could look at. It's a reserve that was set up a couple of years ago that if for some reason our budget couldn't handle if we had a storm and it couldn't manage the expenses and we didn't do a budget appropriation. It just means that if we went over budget, it would roll up and wipe this out. This is something that we can look at to say, do we really need to keep this or not?
We generally get FEMA claims to pay
Yeah.
for those expenses, so.
Because once we have, FEMA can take a while, they're getting better, but they're still can take a while. Once we get an award from FEMA, it's easier having that document to say, let's take those expenses out and put it over here as a receivable for a grant, because we know it's coming. You kept that there because it took so long for FEMA to give us back some of our reimbursements and some of the dollar amounts were quite sizable. So you needed just something to hold it there. But that's definitely something we could look at. Obviously, the subsequent year budget, this was just voted on the 6 million. So that becomes an assigned.
That moves over to assigned.
It
That's
does.
actually the lion's share of this, what's in there.
Yes. Yes. An education I put on there because once
So
they.
what does it
go-
say? The policy requires 10% to be left unassigned?
So out of our general fund, we need to keep 10% of
Oh,
the
piece.
fund balance,
Of
should I
course.
say.
Yep.
Our policy said 10%.
Yeah,
I just
that's
throw that
fine.
in there just in case anyone didn't
Nope, it's
realize
good.
what it was. And then education, once they close their books, they usually have encumbrances. They become assignments on the fund balance.
All right, well, there's not a lot there other than
There's not. And then.
you assigned a number.
Yeah, and this is purely general fund. So what I did was kind of put a cheat sheet together for you because I'm always going this fund, that fund, and I know the funds I'm talking about. So I said, I'll give you, there's 3 types of funds that a government uses. And I won't go into all the details, but they're governmental, proprietary and the fiduciary. And under each section, it tells you what type of fund it is. And then I listed all the funds we have that we deal with. So for example, our general fund is our main one. That's a government fund. We have 13 capital funds. We're reducing them down to about, we're just closing 7 of those. Special revenue, we have a lot of special revenue, so we're looking to see, but a lot of those also are the BOE at the tail end. You'll see that they're on the Board of Ed side. They're not on the town side. So these, when you say like assigned fund balance and things like that, these go into all our governmental funds. These are our
Are they
government.
assigned or unassigned?
Some of these are assigned. Capital is usually always assigned because it's bonded money for assigned for a project.
So how much money is sitting in special revenue funds?
That's about, last time I looked, that's probably $1.5 million. Oh, in all special revenues? What I was going to say, if by September, I want to actually give you each breakdown to say this one, because we're closing the books.
Okay, yep.
And then I'll
Fair
tell
enough,
you exactly
fair
what the estimated fund balance and all these are.
I just think we should look at that. I mean,
Yeah,
what's 24 and.
Yeah, well, because I'm always throwing out funds to you and I
Yeah.
thought, when we're talking about which fund, when I go at the government fund, to me, that's the general fund. That's our main general
Right.
fund. And then we've all these other funds.
Well, as you said, as the auditor said, as the internal auditor said, we want to have fewer funds, not more funds.
Right, and that's
so
what we're
this is
working
part of
for.
that consolidation.
Yeah.
effort.
It's
Okay,
just a cheat sheet.
that's good. That's great. So in September, we will have the amounts left once the books are closed in these funds to get a sense as to what is all.
In each of them and what they're
Okay.
for. I'll say what's each of them, what they're for, and if anyone has an assignment against.
Okay, well, I think that's just a good exercise for us to know. What are the funds? What are they for?
Right.
How much money is sitting there and can Andrew make any money on it?
Well,
And
just-
where are all the funds that various groups and nonprofits have town that eliminated a ton of them? But I think I inherited like 130. Just significantly, but where are the remaining ones?
So can you give me an example of one? Because I'm not.
Well, the Irwin Park, for example.
So they're
Irwin
projects, they're all
Food
project,
Stamp.
what we call bonded projects. They're under our fund 3601.
And how many of those are left?
Oh,
Or is there still a ton?
I'm going to be sending out a list in probably 2 weeks. I'll let you know because we just closed 150 of them.
Oh, I know.
And we
I
have
thought
another,
that
so.
We were back up. I
Okay.
can't believe we were.
I know,
Okay,
the
okay.
Board of Ed and DPW have been phenomenal working with us
I know.
in doing all this. So
And
it's
it's
been a
all,
great
it's all
exercise.
good money. I mean,
Yeah,
money.
it's been a great exercise.
I just wondered where that's located.
Okay, should we move on
I-
to?
one- one-
Oh, go
One
ahead, Bob.
question. I'm just wondering, where are the ARPA funds that we've got a couple million that we have committed but haven't spent? I'm just wondering
Well,
where are
that's
those.
true.
The ARPA funds are in the grant fund, which is a special revenue fund. It's the second listed one on the second page. It's called 2830.
Got
Any
it.
of our
Okay.
grant, yeah, any of our grants go in there. And that money, because the grants really shouldn't be commingled with anything else, there's money market in there. So if we earn any interest, it's additional money for any additional grants we want.
Oh, that was going to be my follow on was, what do you do with the interest? Does the town take it or does it go to the cause? So it goes to the cause. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it stays within the grant fund.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't have to, I guess.
I need to clarify that
Does it?
because we're earning it on grant money. I think it can't just come back to the general fund.
But
But
it was budgeted, so you'd end up having surplus that you could budget for use for something else. I got you.
Right, but I'll get clarification.
Well, I wonder how many towns are actually doing that. I guess the law should have a stipulation in it with the grant, but who knows?
Well, it's funny you asked that question, Bob. I was wondering, slightly related question. how many towns have, where did I put my?
'Cause when that legislation was passed, rates were zero and they were, thought to be zero forever.
Well, what we have, we've only spent 2.5 million out of three, out of six. The question I would have is, that's not even 50% of what we were granted. How many towns have spent less than 50%? That seems kind of low, but I appreciate that it's a sign and it's going to happen and so forth. I understand, but that's a pretty low number, less than 50%. Yeah, no.
Different ways. Yeah, some people just took it back completely into the general fund as revenue lost. Schools, yeah, so it's.
But that takes time.
Yeah, there's no one answer I can answer. It's curious. Okay. Okay, financial update.
Over to Josh. He's on.
Oh, Josh.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
I'm just sharing this on my screen. Let's see. Okay. So what you have on your tablets and on the screen is the year-to-date financials as of June 30th. Keeping in mind, of course, these are very preliminary as departments are still giving us invoices. So we're still having expenses, of course, and we're still booking some revenue in a couple of these categories. So I'll just kind of run through what's changed since the May meeting and kind of go along with how they're matching our projections and yeah. So starting at the overall revenue, it's at 102.1% or 3.24 million over what was budgeted. That, of course, is led by tax collections, which had a small uptick from last month. Right now, it's almost $2 million over what was budgeted. It's 101.37%. So that's 2 million over on current tax collections and 200,000 over on prior year tax collections over what was budgeted. So that's at 171%. So that's doing very well. Building permits has taken an uptick. That's at 113% or 115,000 over what was budgeted for the year. That's taken a small downturn from last year of about 60,000. So it's still staying pretty level from last year. As opposed to conveyance fees, which is at 83% of what was budgeted or 325,000 under budget. And at this point, it's about 650,000 under where we were at last year at this point.
Hey,
Parking
Josh?
revenue, yes.
Just on building permits, that was the variance was an unfavorable variance, I think, last month.
Correct.
So June was a very good month.
Yes. This June.
So was conveyance fees, because conveyance fees were much more than negative.
Conveyance fees, I think, ticked up maybe 150, 200,000. I think that's semi-expected in May, June, in this time of year. But yeah, we probably won't hit the 100% on conveyance fees, but it's hopefully not going to fall too far short. Parking, on the other hand, is likely going to hit what we had budgeted for. Right now, it's at 91%, which is about 80,000 under what was budgeted. But there are some revenues for June and May that we're waiting to be booked, probably at least 50,000 or so. So that's going to approach pretty closely. So it's kind of good to see that coming back. Down to the other revenue, that's at 126%, and that's 1.64 million over what was budgeted. Taking into account the 780,000 more than we had budgeted in interest on investments, that's hitting 1.28 million right now. And the second to last page kind of shows the breakdown of those, whether it's from the Parks and Rec programs that we've gotten that's higher than like 150,000 higher than what was budgeted and so on. Any questions on revenues?
Just on the ECS, the excess cost grant, is that?
Yeah,
not
so that
coming
came in lower than what we had expected. So, I mean, we were just given less by the state compared to what we were expecting. And that's the rest of that's not going to come in, but I think it was slightly made up by one of the other education grants that came in slightly higher than we had expected.
The other
I
excess
bel-
cost. the ECS.
Yeah, I believe educational cost sharing came in about 100,000 higher than what was expected, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah,
And just to update with, by the time Josh ran this to now, our interest is up another 150,000 because we're getting June in. The statements are starting to coming in and we just have the two investment statements that we still have to book. So we just need to see, in talking with Andrew, we had to liquidate some of them for cash flow purposes, but there was no losses on it.
So Josh, you have a forecast for the favorable revenue?
well, I would say that in our May meeting, we were expecting it to be about 2.8 million to the good in revenue, which you see now is at 3.2 million. So we're definitely outperforming on revenue. That might be pared back a little bit by higher than expected expenses or getting closer to what was budgeted for that. But
I'm just telling you, Michael Chen's very unhappy with you right now because he wanted to go for 6.5 million.
next year,
No,
next
no,
year,
I'm
I'm running it all the way down to running the fund balance down to 0 for you, just so you can pick any number you want.
Well, that's good.
No, but I
Um,
think it's good. Jonathan, I think we're up 3 million revenue. I'm thinking ahead, we're 4 million short on expenses.
That I want to know about.
The 7.
We got, no, we're not there yet on
We're not
expenses.
there yet.
Let's hear more about that.
Right.
But anyway, so just to lock it in, 3.2 million of revenue to the good. We were thinking
Yeah,
2.8, so we're
we're
gonna be a
not
little
gonna-
better than that.
Yeah,
That's
we're
great.
not going to do worse than 3.2 million. It's probably going to get closer to 3.3, presumably.
Excellent.
With the
That's
interest
great.
on investment and so on. To the expense side of things, we expect it to be around 400,000. That was what we expected to have left over savings. Right now, it's 4.4 million remains, which is about 97%, 97.7% used. Of the 4.4 million, 650,000 of that are encumbrances. We obviously don't know if some of that money will come back to us in.
Yeah,
over
Josh, can you move the
budgeted.
page?
Yeah.
Can you move the
Okay.
page?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Let's go. Yeah, so that gets you down to the bottom there. That's the 4.4-ish is there. So of that, there's 650,000 in encumbrances. There's another payroll for the town, which is about 500,000 to book. There is, and of that, of the remaining from that, much of it, I believe 2.7 million is on the Board of Ed side. And that they do have what we expect to be about 1.7 worth of expenses left if we go by the trends from last year, even though it's a little hard for us to know. We don't exactly have their financials or what they plan on doing with that. So right now we're projecting about 300 to 400,000 to the good in expenses, not including anything that we've heard from the Board of Ed.
All of that. I wrote down 650 for something, 500,000 for payroll, 650,000 for encumbrances, $500,000 for one more payroll. That's 1.1, 1.15. 1.7 for Board of Ed, so that's 2.8.
Well, so
2.7.
So 2.7
for the Board of Ed.
2.7 right now. Yeah.
Saving.
No, 2.7 is there, but you said they were going to spend 1.7.
Well,
Right now,
I can't say exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, based on last year, the payroll they have to book and their encumber and,
Yeah.
end of the year.
1.7.
1.7.
It's 1.7, but I don't know, there could be other things we're not aware of. I'm just saying based on.
But
last
let's
year.
just say it's 1.7.
Even if you rounded this up to, adds up to 2.8, rounded to 3, that's 1.4 million, not 400,000. So that's what we got to figure out.
Well, 400 for the town. If we're speaking for just the town, we're saying 400 for
So
the
it's
town.
400 down, maybe.
And maybe
up
a
to
million for the town. Okay, for Board of
Without
Ed.
knowing what Board of Eds, I don't. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's say if there was.
so Josh,
like
you
last year, that would be like 4.4 million. We thought we were gonna use 5 million from the general fund, and we might only use 1 million.
Right. What was
Right.
budgeted last year? Correct. I
Yes.
think it was, yeah,
Correct.
it was 5.5 we had budgeted.
Right, so all I'm saying is when we put 6 million in the general fund this year, if all goes to track, we might only use 2 million. So
yeah,
putting more in the general fund wasn't a bad thing.
No,
but
it's
we
good.
Generally use less than what we think we'll use.
Right, but
That's-
that does
yeah.
beg the question, why did we put in 6 million when it's way over what we need and what we think we'll need?
We gotta put it to balance the budget.
Well, yeah.
We did to buy down the mill rate.
So if
So
you're,
what you're gonna do is you're gonna get another 4 million back.
Correct. You get it back, correct.
Hey,
Yeah.
and I think we've done this before. It would be really cool if we could see over, take it 7 years, 8 years, how much we said we were gonna draw down and how much we did. Because, you know, it's when you do a budget with stuff, if you always know you're gonna budget 6 and right off the bat, we know the 1.5% that we under assume on revenue collections, which I'm fine with. I think that's great. But it would just be, that would be a good thing for us to know, so that we approach the budget every year, how reasonable we
Right,
feel
that's
with
good.
that. So if we just kind of saw it over time.
it'd be good to know. In September, we'll get a final number here and then we can just go back and look over the last few years and just see what we've budgeted, what we used.
That's right.
And we use 10% of it. Right?
20% maximum.
We'll see.
Sure.
Josh, anything else on the update? Great update.
On the update, no, there are a couple line item transfers. That I'll just get in front of you quick. Let's just do this. There are several transfers. Well, it's kind of the time of the year where everyone's moving their money around to pay invoices. So there are a lot of transfers, but it only totals about 67,357.37. Nothing that needs to be approved, though. And just
None need to be, just to be clear, none need to be approved.
correct,
Okay.
correct,
Yes or no? Okay, I just want to be sure if I heard it
Yep.
correctly.
correct.
Any questions, team, on these transfers? They're all sort of singles and doubles.
Yep.
So overall, Josh, you feel good about our finances going in? even
Yeah,
though
I
the
think
books aren't closed
I
yet?
think we're good. I mean, our projection, we're gonna be a little bit better on the revenue, a little bit worse on the expenses. It'll net out to be the same. I think we're in good shape, yeah.
So Bob, Andrew has a big 60 days coming. Right?
Lots of interest earned.
Lots of interest. to
He's
earn.
on. He's on.
He's what?
He's on.
I'm
He's-
here.
Oh, Andrew's on the call. Oh, I couldn't see it. Hey, Andrew,
Hey,
you've got the most interesting 60, 90 days of your treasurer career, I think, in front of you. You've never had this before.
I have not. It is very exciting. In 10 years, this is the moment.
So. Well, good job last year. I think you exceeded expectations. I'm gonna go back and watch the video, though, when I told you you'd get over $1 million and you weren't sure.
I
job.
like to under promise, over deliver.
All right, fair enough. Fair
Todd,
enough.
you've got a good history of that too.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? That was the last item. Any other business? Wow, okay. A motion to adjourn.
Remove.
Oh, second. Michael, all in favor? I oppose none. Bob, good luck in the Adirondacks. A little worried about you from the video. Holy cow.
I'm gonna have to swim out of here.
My God. Good luck. Okay.